Welcome back, everyone. So, for this deep dive, we're getting into a really unsettling story from Nightfall Narratives, The Erasing Shadows.
Mm.
It tackles this idea, this chilling thought that something might want more than just your life. It wants, well, it wants you, your identity.
It's a profound question, isn't it? I mean, thinking about the ultimate vulnerability, imagine you already feel invisible, like the world doesn't see you. And then something does look, but it looks right through you, trying to take that last thing that makes you you.
It forces you to think about what really defines you deep down.
Yeah.
And the character at the center of this is Arthur. The narrative paints him as someone who's been through a lot.
Yeah.
One bad year, one tragedy after another, it says. And it's like he'd slowly erased everything he was.
Right, so he's in this state of profound isolation.
Exactly. Homeless, just this one duffel bag. And what he wants more than anything is simple. A home. A place where he could be seen, where he could just exist.
But that bag, that's not just stuff.
No, not at all. The text really emphasizes this. Inside, there's a single priceless Polaroid. It's his daughter, Lily, on her 10th birthday. Her smile, it says, was the sun.
Wow.
And this photo, it wasn't just a picture. It was his proof of life, proof he was still a father.
That connection, that identity.
That was the last piece, you know, the anchor.
Okay. So he's incredibly vulnerable.
Right. And that's when he first senses them, these entities. It's not like he sees them right away. He describes it as a cold spot in the air,
Yeah.
a feeling like the back of your neck is on fire, just this prickle of unease, a distant feeling at first.
And what's really interesting there is how he senses them. The story says it wasn't with his eyes at first. It was that deep, primal part of your brain that screams danger, like an instinct kicking in.
Yeah, that gut reaction bypasses logic.
Totally. And then when he does see them, well, the description is deeply unnerving, just outlines, darker than night itself, and they didn't have faces. Just these empty, featureless voids.
No faces.
Yeah.
Chilling.
And their movement wasn't natural either. They glided like shadows on a film reel.
That image is so specific, so creepy. Like they're not quite real.
Exactly. It suggests something missing, a fundamental lack, a vacuum that maybe wants to fill itself by taking identity.
Gliding like shadows on a film reel.
Ah.
Wow. Okay, so they appear,
Yeah.
and then it becomes clear what they're focused on, right?
Precisely. The narrative tells us they were looking right at him. But, crucially, not at his body, but at his bag. At the small piece of his soul he still held onto.
So it's not about physical threat, it's about erasure.
That's the immediate shift, and Arthur's reaction is pure instinct. Protect that last piece.
He ran.
He ran, desperately, but the story describes how futile it felt. Every alley felt like a dead end. Every street felt like a trap.
Like the city itself was turning against him.
It's more than a physical chase, you see. It's this dawning horror, this feeling of being cornered by something inescapable, something deeper.
I really feel that dread building. And then it
Yeah.
gets worse, doesn't it? It moves beyond just pursuit.
It does. The narrative describes the sensory details intensifying, like a ringing in his ears grew louder, and that cold spot wasn't just there anymore. It was following him, a personal black cloud.
It's a personal black. Right?
Yeah. And the silence of the shadows was maybe the worst part. The text says it was worse than any scream. It felt like they were erasing the sound around them.
Wow. So they're not just chasing him, they're actively dismantling his reality.
Yeah.
Erasing the world around him.
It feels like a slow, psychological unraveling, the very air becoming a void.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
And then comes the moment that really cuts deep. The attack shifts inside his own head. He says, then I heard it. Not the whisper from before, a new whisper from inside my head.
Uh-huh.
It was Lily's name. They were saying her name.
Oh, that's violation on a whole different level.
Oh, it's so personal, so targeted.
And that really clarifies their goal, doesn't it? This mental assault, it shows what they're truly after. Arthur describes the feeling, like his identity slipping away, like sand through my fingers. He says, my name, my memories, they were fading.
They're literally trying to unmake him.
Exactly. It wasn't about his life. It was about his essence. They were reaching for the bag. They wanted the photo. They wanted to take her, or rather, to take the memory of her, the proof that I was ever a father, that I was ever someone.
Taking the proof, taking the memory.
It's not just stealing a thing, it's erasing his history, his self, by cutting that connection.
But right there, at that lowest point, facing total erasure, that's when Arthur finds something. He pushes back. He has this moment of just pure defiance.
Yeah.
He thinks, no,
Just-
just no. I wasn't a shadow. I wasn't just a body. I was Arthur. I was Lily's dad.
Mm.
And they were not going to take her from me.
And that defiance, that fierce assertion of who he is, that's everything. It connects back to the nature of the shadows themselves. The story explains they weren't solid. They were just a lack, a vacuum.
A lack?
Okay. And the one thing this vacuum, this lack, couldn't stand was a person who fought back. It couldn't stand someone who was real.
So his resistance, his realness was like poison to them.
In a way, yeah. It's a powerful metaphor, I think. It suggests that resilience isn't always about physical fighting. Sometimes it's about fighting for your own reality, for the connections and identity that make you solid, that make you real.
Holding on to what defines.
Exactly. Fighting with your heart, essentially.
So what happens then? After he fights back with that core of himself,
Yeah.
does he defeat them? Well, externally, the story tells us not much changed right away. He was still homeless, still invisible to most.
But internally,
Internally, everything changed. He wasn't faceless. He was still
he
Arthur.
held on to himself.
Yeah. His salvation, it says, was the love he refused to let go of.
And that leads to this really profound realization he has at the end. He acknowledges, okay, he lost everything else, everything, but he still had her, meaning Lily, the memory, the love.
The photo, the proof.
Right. And that, he realizes, was home enough.
Wow.
It just perfectly nails that core idea from the source material, doesn't it? The real horror wasn't physical pain. It was the threat of having that internal anchor taken away, what they wanted to take.
Yeah, what they wanted to erase from inside him. It makes Arthur's resilience just incredibly moving. This whole story really makes you stop and think, about what actually defines us when you strip everything else away.
It really does.
That core identity, that inner strength.
And even though it's fantastical, a horror narrative, it taps into something very real, I think. That human experience of clinging to what's truly valuable. Especially when things feel overwhelming, when forces seem determined to diminish you or make you feel small.
Like holding on to your realness.
Exactly. It really hammers home that final line from the source. Some things in this world you have to fight for. Not with your fists, but with your heart. The battles fought inside are sometimes the most important.
Fighting with your heart. That really resonates. So it leaves you wondering, doesn't it? As you think about Arthur and his fight, what's that one priceless Polaroid for you? That irreplaceable part of your identity? What would you fight for with all your heart?